Hi, I'm Natasha Sinyanovich, a public radio journalist, and this is Women Like Sex, a myth-busting podcast that examines the many, many medical, scientific, and social facts about female sexuality that were never, in fact, facts. Especially the very modern-day belief that women don't like sex as much as men do. I'll be speaking with experts, educators, friends, comedians, and listeners of all ages, backgrounds, and parts of the globe to flip the scripts on myths and misconceptions that have long been dictated by not women. Together, we'll replace so much inaccurate messaging with healthier, smarter, factual facts, and get the sex ed we wished we'd gotten. From hookups and swipey dating to sex ed and male entitlement, what has and has not changed in recent decades for young women? This week's guest, Alex Petro, gives us a glimpse. The 21-year-old and her peers are still fighting the mythologies of boys will be boys, of virginity, of people-pleasing as a part of female sexuality, which means my former student and I are able to share bad dating stories far too easily. However, talking to Alex is also heartening, as it is whenever I hear young women dismantling persisting myths about their sexuality that they will not and do not put up with anymore. Last but not least, I want to unequivocally state that I love cats and would never and have never harmed them. But I do give you all license to use my cat metaphor from the episode, or a variation of it. I have found it can get its point across very efficiently. And with that, let's begin. I know you to be a very compassionate, empathetic, and thoughtful young woman.
Thank you.
And I knew from one of the times that we spoke after class, and we spent a long time with another student also talking about so many of these issues. And I thought, when I start recording, I would love to speak to Alex.
I got the email and I was like, yes.
You were, I think, the only person who sent me
The man versus bear thing. We just come off of like our conversation about all the gender-based violence and everything like that. And I was like, I'm going to send this email. I don't care if it might be weird, and I'm your student.
Never weird. There's no such thing.
I figured I felt comfortable enough to do it. So I was like, yeah.
I always want to create a space where if it were up to me, I would talk about it nonstop in class. But I taught you radio broadcast. I taught another media literacy class. So it wasn't really, I would sneak it in there. Not sneak it in, but I would talk about it every once in a while.
Class full of guys too, it's.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about your sex ed, but I also want to show you, and I'm curious to know if you know what this is. It's a little model.
Oh, that looks anatomical. That looks like the clitoris.
It is.
Oh my gosh. I'm usually really bad at anatomy. I'm actually really proud of myself.
So you didn't ever learn it in a sex ed class?
No, I really didn't learn very much ever in a sex ed class.
What were your classes like? Did you have them in school?
Long story short, my sister is special needs. So I was sent to a private Christian school, which is wild because my family is not religious at all. We really didn't have any sort of sex ed. Everything was just kind of like your parents were supposed to teach you at home. We were taught a little bit about our bodies. We did the thing in 5th grade where your parents sign a waiver. They split you up into guys and girls. Fun fact, my dad was subbing that day, so he had to be in the guys' room. And they basically were like, oh, you're going to get your period. Here's some pads to take home. And that's about it. I remember nothing. I took health online in 8th grade.
Why online?
We had the option to take it online over summer just to get credit.
It was not COVID times.
I was a sophomore in high school when COVID hit, so it was a little bit before. Maybe it was more comprehensive when it was in person for people, but at least when I did it, it was just one module. If you're a girl, you click the girl one. If you're a guy, you click the guy one. I remember nothing. I think it was more so just teaching you about STIs and STDs.
Which is what so many of them are. They talk about anatomy.
Vaguely.
And disease.
Pretty much.
Which you need to know about. But that's such a small part of what sex is.
Yes.
If it was a Christian school, was there also an emphasis on abstinence?
They kind of just didn't talk about it very much. If anything, it was more so just among my peers or just among the teachers, oh, I would wait till marriage, wink, wink. Because also I only went there until 8th grade and then I changed schools. But I did have a professor who was very anti-abortion, and he was saying a pizza's not a pizza till it comes out of the oven. That was his whole, thing. But pretty much everything I learned was just from home. At our school, I feel it was more so just if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist and no one will ask. Even in science class, we didn't talk about it.
Right.
Everything I learned was either from home or just on my own over time or like from my friends or like public school, you know.
What was the home ed like then?
My dad to this day just like doesn't really talk about it. I think it's just him being a guy. I'm his daughter. It's just a little bit weird. My mom, on the other hand, was like weirdly a little bit open about it, but in a very roundabout way. I think starting from when I was 15, I was dating like the second person I've ever dated. I didn't start dating till high school. She just like out of nowhere in the car was just like, "So you have a boyfriend. I need you to remember to be safe." I was just kind of like, what are we doing right now? And I was in the car. I could not escape. And it was just very vague. Like, it was just like, oh, you're 15 and you have a boyfriend. You might start doing things soon. And then I was kind of like, okay, great. Thanks, Mom. I don't want to talk about this right now. And then I got the same conversation again when I was 18. It's my 18th birthday. I was going to go hang out with the person I was dating. And then just out the door, she was like, oh, you're 18. You're going to go to college soon. Remember to not get diseases. And I was like, thanks, I'll try. Like I was just going to like go watch a movie.
So there wasn't a lot of talk about the emotional implications of sex or what feels good, what doesn't feel good.
There was a little bit of that, actually. I remember when I was 15, the only thing she did say was that it hurts. And I found that very interesting in hindsight because I found out like a year ago that I have vaginismus. So now I grew up with this idea of it hurts. And that is also something that like doesn't help with vaginismus. Do you know?
I know a little bit about it.
It's basically when you're unable to like relax your pelvic floor. So you have a really hard time with insertion. So I could never like do tampons or things like that. A lot of it is caused by just like if you grow up and you're like tense a lot. So like growing up skating and dancing is a cause. Also, I have pigeon-toed. That's also a cause, genetics. So there's like some anatomy. But also one of the biggest causes is the mental aspect, a sort of fear of pain or like intimacy, things like that makes it worse. So then when you do experience like insertion or anything, your brain tells you, it basically just goes into fight or flight. And then it goes, all right, we're going to tense everything up and then it's going to hurt. So currently I'm in pelvic floor therapy, long story short. But all I grew up with was my mom telling me, oh, it hurts the first time. It hurts. And I was
so just the first time, but she wasn't saying it hurts every time.
She never really elaborated after that. It was just kind of like, oh, it hurts. Like, just know that it hurts. And I don't even think she was like trying to discourage me from like having sex or like trying to scare me. I think she was a very blunt and honest person. I think it was just her being like, I'm going to be real with you right now. But I don't think she realized like the fear she caused.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up after that, like scared to put tampons in and like stuff like that. And to this day, I'm like, all right, this is a problem now. Like now I can't fully like do anything because I have this condition.
So we have this idea of sex just being penetration.
Yes.
We've been using sex synonymously with intercourse for the most part. Almost all of us do. And the idea is that sex is everything, right? So sex can be kissing. Sex is this entire umbrella, and intercourse is a very specific thing. And the reason that we think of it this way is that's been the definition that sexologists and scientists, social scientists have used of P in V.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard that, penis and vagina.
Yes.
I don't know what your mother meant, and you don't know at this point. But
no idea.
So often in speaking to sex health educators, they will say that women have learned at a young age or are told by their mothers at a young age it hurts. And that is partially because the vagina, it's not where women get pleasure, right? The clitoris is where women get pleasure. And this is hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around. Like the pee is not necessary, right?
True.
And sometimes I think I should rename this podcast, The Pee Ain't Necessary.
We don't need the pee.
We don't need the pee. There are plenty of women who do enjoy intercourse, but there are also lots of women.
I know a lot can't with penetration alone.
Right.
Or at least you need other stuff happening.
And that has a lot of women feeling damaged, like there's something wrong with them, and there isn't. It's the messaging that's wrong.
Even like talks around virginity, like if someone asks me if I'm a virgin, because again, I have vaginismus, I have not had penetrative sex ever. Some people would look at me then and be like automatically like, oh, you're still a virgin then because and I was like, you don't know what else.
Virginity is a social construct.
For sure.
Our definitions of sex are so narrow. We have this tiny little window of what we're talking about and this massive spreading my arms out as far as they can go. Expectations and reactions to that and thoughts on that. And We need to close that gap.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Women of your age or your generation, the women that you know, do you think that they feel that they're damaged? Do you think that they still, most of them are carrying this idea that something is wrong with them as opposed to the definitions that we've learned?
I do think it's a little bit less so than maybe some older generations, but I've had friends who have been sexually active and they're like, I don't know if I've ever had an orgasm before. And to me, I'm like, you don't know? And I also think the biggest thing too is like around masturbation. I think a lot of people think that that's taboo. It's really good for you. And I think women especially are told not to do that. And I have a lot of friends who are like, I don't even know what I like. I don't know how to do anything, and there is that sort of feeling that like, oh, is there something wrong with me? Like maybe I'm not doing something right. Oh, maybe my partner's just bad.
I've had students come to me. I've had young people come to me and say, oh, it's so much worse now than in the 90s. I'm like, oh, darling.
I do think media, like the porn industry, have a part in that because everything is so much more accessible and it's more of a performance. It's meant to be entertainment. It's meant to look good, not feel good. And I think a lot of people have this expectation that they're like, okay, I have to look great 1,000% of the time. And like, this has to look aesthetically pleasing. That's just not real. Like, that's just not how anything works.
Most people don't look that way.
No.
And sex is awkward. And there are funny smells and sounds.
They edit things out.
I'm glad you say that you understand it's more performative than it is realistic. I've been doing reading on that and spoken to also educators who say that they do have a harder time now explaining, hey, this isn't real.
I've had relationships like kind of end over like us just not being able to like talk about things like that. I did have an ex who was way more like adamant about experimenting than I was. And I very much was kind of like, I don't think I'm ready. I was like freshly 18, but like still in high school. And it was definitely like a lot of just things that came from porn. And I was like, I don't really like, that sounds really weird and not comfortable. And like the more he would like talk about it, the less comfortable I was, because then after a while it was like, okay, this feels like a bit of an obsession. Like, why can't we have a conversation without this coming up? It just caused a lot of tension in our relationship and we ended up breaking up. Not over that, of course, but like it definitely didn't help. I just think men are taught to be these like sex-driven creatures, and not to say women aren't, because I definitely think we can be, but
right.
It's definitely been a dynamic in relationships where I'm just kind of like, I'm not ready to do things like that. And they're like mad.
And even if it is never, I mean, there are things that people don't want to do and they may never want to do.
Right.
I will hear conversations from people saying, I really like this in sex, or I love to partner swap. Well, I don't really like that. Have you tried it? I'm like, no, but I'm not interested.
It's like, I know I don't want to.
I know I don't want to. It doesn't attract me. It doesn't turn me on. And they're like, well, you just, you'd like it if you tried it. I'm like,
I don't know.
How do you know?
Yeah.
Why do you know better than I do? It's not like a food. Those conversations are, in and of themselves, they're telling, because it has to be a mutual, reciprocal enjoyment. It has to be fun.
Yeah.
But you do have to feel safe, because anytime that you're intimate with someone, if you're going to talk about your innermost feelings with someone, you need to know that that person is like a receptacle for them, right? That they're going to understand what you're saying. When you add to the mix your body,
it's vulnerable,
and things that require taking off your clothes.
Again, even going to like pelvic floor therapy, the part where I have to like take off my pants is like, oh, really? We have to do that today?
Yeah, our bodies, our intimate selves are something that we need to give and to share without pressure. We're constantly taught that boys in the modern world, that boys will be boys, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Boys
We've
and
talked
men
about this.
want only one thing. And you're taught that they're going to want it so much that, okay, what can you do? It's like, well, everybody can control themselves. In teaching that to children, you are teaching everyone across the entire spectrum, right, to equate sex with violence. And to go back to what you were saying, boys and men are taught, are these like super sexual beings.
Yeah.
In the Western world, throughout history, this is the only time where we teach this myth. The other was a myth too, that women were hypersexual and men were basically chaste. Everybody likes it.
Yeah.
With an asterisk. There are people who genuinely do not. But for the most part, men and women,
yeah, of course,
enjoy it equally in different ways. How did you figure out that sex is fun? How old were you? Where did that come from?
I really don't know. I mean, probably the first time I ever experienced something like that or like wanted to, I was probably about 17, which is I think pretty old. Even my guy friends are like, "Oh, I was like 13." For me, I was like, I was 17. I was in like my third relationship.
It's not old. It's not, I
No,
mean, and I
not
don't,
super old, but yeah,
it's not super old. Again, there's that pressure of like,
yeah.
when we should
What's
be
your body
sexual.
count?
What's your body count? How good are you at it? When and how,
Yeah.
like 17 is young. I mean, there are people who are 47 when they figure out it's fun.
And even then, there's still like a little bit of that, like, oh, okay. And like with a new person, it's still always a little bit scary.
If it's a good scary. I would say a
Yeah.
bad scary is not a good thing, but a good
Yes.
scary.
I definitely do still get the bad scary, but you know, it's we're working through that.
The good scary is I remember
Butterflies.
talking to an acting coach when I was studying acting way back when in Italy.
Yes. It's okay. I'm an actor too,
Yes.
so I'm familiar.
And I said something about a first date that I was going on. I was like, I'm really nervous. She's like, of course you are. Otherwise, maybe you would be a monster. If you like this person,
Yeah, like you want to impress them.
you want a person, but it's new, right? The
Yeah.
newness of meeting
It's
someone.
exciting. I love a first date. It's one thing my dad doesn't know if he listens to this, but like I am on dating apps, but I don't like to do hookups. I just don't. I got to be like dating someone before we kind of get there. But it is definitely fun, you know, like especially when I was in New York City, I was like, Tinder.
So many to choose from.
It was. I did have my little New York City fling.
When I was younger, I mean, people have been hooking up all the time. People have had
Of course.
hookups all the time. But there was more of a stigma about it of like, it's not necessarily a good thing. I was never ashamed and I didn't mind hookups. I mean, sounds weird. I liked them. There were
Yeah.
moments where I was like, I just like this person and I know that I'm not going to like them really past tomorrow or next
I know what
week
you
or
mean.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to somebody recently who is probably about 10 years older than you, so early 30s, saying that she really felt this pressure to like hookups
Yeah.
and had to finally say, I don't like this. This is
Yeah.
not for me.
I think in my generation, it's like expected to do hookups to the point where like I will match with someone on a dating app and I will fully like you put what you're looking for in your profile. So I'm like, I know you didn't read it if you like matched with me and are still, you know, but it's always like a conversation. People will get upset or it's like almost transactional where I'm like, I need to go on a few dates first and like get to know you as a person. There's always some sort of attitude there. Like, it's like, what do you mean? You know, and I'm like, you're not entitled to it. Like, it is technically a dating app. Like, it's not a hookup app. Those exist. But like, some people are into that. I think it's great, you know, if you are, but it's not for me. But it's just like, if I tell you I don't want that, you know, it's like, why are we getting mad? Why are we like, oh, well, I bought you dinner. Now you have to. And it's like, I don't. Like, I really don't.
This breaks my heart because
It's such a thing.
that it's still a thing breaks my heart to me. And especially, and this is what I find very particular to this country. I never felt that pressure in Italy. I never felt the pressure if somebody bought me dinner. And a lot of men, because they insist on buying dinner, and I've talked about this before and I will talk about it again. It was never transactional.
Yeah.
I keep asking young women, hoping that someone will say, oh no, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I would even say sometimes it's even like more so like even if you are on a dating app like for a relationship, like that scares people away. Like so many people like only want the casual thing. There's a rise of situationships.
Yeah.
I refuse. I'm like, we're either dating or we're not. And like maybe that's traditional. I don't think so. I think that's totally fine and normal. I don't mind going on a couple dates, but like a situationship, I'm like, no. Or people like friends with benefits is really popular among people I know. It's messy.
Friends with benefits, do you see people having a good time with those?
No. I think it's very instant gratification for a lot of people, but it tends to lead to discrepancies I've noticed in like feelings. Like one person starts getting very attached, the other does not, and it just kind of is weird and awkward and messy. And to me, I'm like, I can't see that being fulfilling. I don't know. I just think there's an expectation to not commit. It's just like, oh, I want to keep my options open. This is so casual. I don't want to commit. And it's just like, why?
What you're saying is important of yourself. It has to feel good.
Yeah.
Relationships in general, that's not, and
Yeah.
sex is a part of that.
Yeah.
But it has to feel good and it has to feel right for you. And if it doesn't feel right, the reason I asked about the friends with benefits is it's not a moral stance I have, but I haven't seen it work out often.
Right.
And in my own life,
Right.
because I could have flings so easily, a hookup so
Yeah.
easily, and I would get into a situation with a guy and I would just say, we both know what this is. And like, oh yeah. The fact that I didn't want to follow up, then he might start texting or calling. I'm like, you don't like me. Why are you doing this? The number of times that men would be like, yeah, but you're the girl. You're supposed to want this. So what's wrong that you're not chasing me? It's like, you're chasing me because you think I should be chasing you. What if we were both just honest? And I think we were.
Yeah.
But I also learned, like, there's always strings attached.
Someone's gonna
or almost
catch
always.
Feelings. My New York City fling, we knew going in, like, hey, I'm only here for a semester. But it was one of those things where both of us were like, hey, if this didn't have like a deadline, like I could see this. But there did end up being kind of a discrepancy where he was like, I thought this was just going to be kind of a more physical thing. And I was like, I thought we were going to be like kind of just going on dates and like maybe occasionally. There was like even still just like a bit of a discrepancy.
Because things also evolve.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you have good barriers? Like when you realize the reaction time, I should say, like, I don't know that I had it at your age very much. Like when I'm like, this is not right for me, to recognize that and then act on it.
I really would say yes. I'm an avid communicator. In fact, I can be a little blunt. In relationships, I pride myself on like communicating well.
This is the beauty and benefit, I would say, of a Slavic upbringing.
I definitely get it from my mom. My dad definitely is more so like, yeah, I sugarcoat. I might lie a little, and like my mom was like, I don't want this. This is not happening. Goodbye. I get that from my mom. I get her stubbornness. I get her bluntness,
Which I think are good things.
I like to think so. I mean, because I don't get pushed around. I don't want to get pushed around. Even in my relationship at like 15, I was just like, stop. I would occasionally get called bossy. I don't even think it's
a
bossy.
Code word. Bossy is a code word that's used against women in a way that it's not used against men.
If there's the potential that anything could be a problem, I just like to squash it. You're not like sitting on this like resentment that builds up and like we don't blow up at each other. But sometimes I don't even know. So like, if I don't even know, then like that's where there's a problem usually.
Do you feel that you are an outlier in terms of when you talk to your friends? I imagine you're probably pretty intimate and open with your friends.
Yes.
That you are an outlier in terms of the ability to say no and the ability to just say, hey, what's going on?
I think it depends. I do think I am a bit more blunt than my friends, and I think that's why they like to go to me for relationship advice, because they're like, you won't lie to me. I am the kind of person who will be like, if you don't like it, just tell them. I know there are relationships and situations where you cannot do that.
Then we're going into the territory of violence.
Yes. But in terms of just like my friends who are like, oh, he does this thing that annoys me. I'm like, okay, did you try telling him? And they're like, no. I dropped a hint. I'm like, they're not going to get that. You just got to like be like, look, I don't like when you do that. Here's how I want to move forward. But yeah, I do think my generation is a bit more communicative, but also I do think a lot of us are people pleasers and a lot of us are like, oh, if I say no, I don't want to hurt his feelings. Like there's definitely a lot of that. And I do think a lot of people are scared of being seen as like bossy or like pushy.
In this culture, disagreements are difficult for people.
Yeah.
And when you add to that people pleasing, and when you add to that a sense of entitlement, and when you add to that an inability for a lot of women, especially if we're talking about sex, to say this, or intimacy, but sex in particular, because of the expectations, like, I just don't want this, or this is not good. And this is something that in my generation, I know so many women who are like, oh yeah, of course I've just had sex with a guy because it was easier than saying no.
Wow.
That I would like to change.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship,
consent is ongoing too.
Consent is ongoing. And it's one thing if it's like, oh, you weren't really maybe like fully in the mood, but then you got in the mood when your partner started. Like that's one thing. Another of like, I don't know what's going to happen if I say no.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the reaction's going to be.
I've been in relationships like that too.
I'm not saying it never happens to men.
Of course.
With women. I mean, with anybody.
Right.
But there's the physicality and the entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah.
My very short foray into swipey dating.
I love that you call it swipey dating.
I just didn't have a lot of patience for it. But I did go out with a guy. We actually made it to a second date. And I even told him, I don't want to text. I think we can stand to have a dinner together.
For
if
sure.
it's so bad that one of us has to leave.
Then leave.
No harm, no foul. Yeah. 10 minutes into it, just get up and go. Like,
that's great.
We don't owe each other anything. And he was like, that's refreshing. But really, to me, it's an interview process.
That's kind of how I think about it. I have my like tips that I give my friends every time they're like gonna go on a date. Like, and then they're like, oh my God, I tried this and it wasn't awkward.
What are some of the tips? Now I'm curious.
They're very subtle things. One of the first is like when you first see them, regardless of who gets there first, break the touch barrier, give them a hug, and say it's good to see you, not nice to meet you. Because I feel like if you say nice to meet you, it acknowledges that you're strangers, and that's awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like a subconscious thing. And then I try to find one thing that's like genuine about them to compliment, like, oh, I really like that shirt on you, or something like that. That starts a conversation, because then you can be like, where'd you get it?
Mm-hmm.
And then also location. I'm like, counter service. Don't do like a sit down dinner. You know, it's easier to leave if it's just counter service. It's more casual, you know, or like an activity. For me, it's made things a lot better and way less awkward.
I like dating much more in Italy because you usually just invite the person to come out with your friends.
Yes.
You and your
Group
friends.
dating. Yeah, I know that's a big thing.
That's just what it was. It
Yeah.
wasn't, there wasn't a name for it. It was like, oh, I mean, not that it never happened that
Right.
like you go out alone for dinner or to a movie or whatever, an activity that you're doing. But most of the time it was you just go out and they get to know your friends, or vice versa. You get to know their friends. But with that guy, because we were talking about
Pressure. And
the pressure, the entitlement, we had this lovely first date. And then the second date, we were paddleboarding and had a lovely day out on a lake. And he said, you know, what do you do? He listened to me on air. He knew I was an anchor. And he's like, oh, yeah, not bad. I'm like, well, first of all, you're not in broadcast. So
what do you mean not bad?
thank you. But if you were an anchor and could give me pointers, because I'd only been doing it for a year, great. And then there were some other red flags, but they all happened in succession. But these weren't even red flags. This was just like,
beige flags.
no, this was like a bomb exploding.
Oh,
This
yeah.
was
The big one.
Yeah. And he said, you know, what do you do? What do you report? I'm like, well, free time I barely have is domestic and sexual violence. And he said, oh, I just got into a fight with a trauma therapist who specializes in rape survivors. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And his thing was, well, if you are in a dark alley in a bad part of town, you're waving money around and you get mugged, whose fault is it anyway?
Oh my God.
My first thought was like, you are fucked. I've heard a lot of things about these issues, but not that. So I guess congratulations on surprising me. I didn't think I could be surprised anymore. You know, I said, you understand that when you're having sex with a woman, even if you're inside her, not just because she said she was going to, like what you're talking about is the boys will be boys.
Yeah.
But even if you are inside her, there's been no deed, no
Mhm.
contract that's passed. Like if she gets up and leaves,
Mhm.
it's over. And he was like, well, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't rape her, but she might be a psycho bitch from hell. I'm like, oh, okay, I touched a nerve. Life's too
That's
short for
really-
mediocre sex. If somebody
Yeah.
leaves, they shouldn't be there.
Of course.
But I was like, here's the difference. He was also a martial arts black belt. If we were having intercourse and you just got up and left, of course I would feel terrible. Everybody does. It's a blow to the ego. It's a blow to the heart. If you don't know
But
somebody.
that's it. Yeah.
And because I can't do anything to you physically, imagine that I killed your cat, because he had mentioned having cats. And I like, please, for the sake of this, like, I love cats. I do.
Yes.
You know, allergic to them now.
Do
Aisha
not
had
support animal cruelty.
7 when I lived in Italy. He was like, you'd be unhinged. You'd be crazy. I was like, you understand that because you promised me something and then didn't follow through. You understand that that's unhinged. But in the general ethical scheme of things, if you have to choose between killing a cat or raping a human, kill the cat.
Yeah.
Sounds horrifying, but you
No,
don't.
but yeah.
You would understand it. If I did something, they'd be like, what the hell is wrong with this woman?
Yeah.
And that's that sense of entitlement that
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I just want to apologize from the world to you that you're still dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I said this a year ago. Women fear being raped and murdered, and men fear rejection and embarrassment, generally speaking. Obviously, again, it's like, oh, my ego, like she's crazy. And then for us, it's like, no, my safety is at risk right now.
Yeah.
I was even filming outside the other day for my package class, and I was trying to do a stand-up, and a weird guy came up to me and was like harassing me on the street, and I had to pack up and leave and record it as a VO, and as a result, my grade like went down because I didn't have a stand-up.
And all that, for anyone who's listening, stand-ups, that's all news talk. You are on camera, filming yourself. There's a camera in front of you, so that means you are working in this sense of, I see this moment and I can destroy it.
Why? And it was on April Fool's Day, and my story was about Women's History Month too. So I was like, this is really interesting timing. I had to leave. Like, I was there by myself. I had expensive equipment that I can't damage. So I was just like, okay, great. So like, I can't even go out in public and just do my thing without like a creepy man ruining the vibe.
Another reason for this project is I want the world to be a better place for your generation and for the generation that's being born now.
Even my dad says all the time, he's like, the guys in your generation. And I think it's just the access to people like Andrew Tate and awful people. I'm noticing people say like females and, like just that kind of rhetoric where it's like dehumanizing, and that's like textbook animal speak. Like I'm taking biological anthropology, and they're like the female Australopithecus, it's like they're like females tend to do this, and it's like that's so gross.
I did speak to a 22-year-old recently, young man, again, who is not representative of his entire generation the way you are not of yours. But yeah, I would like to speak to young men as well to have a better understanding of what's going on. But to bring it back, to kind of end on it doesn't have to be a lighter note because this is the reality of it.
Yes.
This is why I'm doing this show. But when I was speaking to this young man, I asked my boyfriend, what would you ask your 20-year-old self? He was like, what about laughter? Do you know that it's okay to laugh during sex?
I think it's good.
For me, it's important in all of my life. Like, I am a clown.
Me too.
And it also helps, especially if you're reporting on serious subjects. But is that something that you've been able to share in your relationships?
I think so. I mean, I like to laugh. I laugh at everything, arguably when things like aren't funny. I laugh when I'm uncomfortable. I laugh when I am comfortable. I think in situations where you're comfortable enough where you can laugh during intimate moments, I think that says a lot. I think it shows a lot of trust. I think if you can make light of like weird things that happen, I think it kind of, I don't want to say it gets rid of like the awkwardness or the taboo, but I think it does. Like it makes everything more relaxing and comfortable, and overall just way more positive. I'm also a clown, so you will always catch me just being goofy.
I think there's a lot to be said about goofiness during intimacy.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have? Is there something you want to ask me?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess I told you I was on my friend's podcast where we talked about like feminism and porn. We talked a lot about the titles and how they're so weird, and like the power dynamics in them are really weird. Like, why is there so many step relationships? Why is there so many teacher-student things? I was just wondering, what your thoughts are if you've ever.
I haven't thought about it that. I mean, teacher-student I've thought about in the sense of not thought about.
Like, yeah, so I was like,
and this is something that I was never comfortable with the idea of it, especially when there's a large age gap. I mean, if you've got like a 26-year-old grad student and a 20-year-old undergrad, that's a different thing. But when I started teaching, it just became much more of a visceral reaction where I was just like, I can't imagine. I am entrusted.
I look at my professors and I'm like, no, like
we're old to you, right?
I have some that are like a couple years, but I'm like, no, that's like my teacher.
I'll share an article with you where this woman, Amiya Srinivasan, talks about how it's wrong on so many levels, but men go to college, go to university, and are taught like these are their role models. This is what they can become. Mm-hmm. Why would you not give women that same opportunity?
Yeah.
This is not somebody that you do. This is somebody that you can become.
Yeah.
Once I got up and stood up in front of, and yours was my first class.
Yeah. I always forget that.
No. Sorry. You were my second class. My first class, I stood up and thought, in what world is this even attractive? You're young adults.
Mm-hmm.
You also could be my children.
Yeah.
Love can transcend age, but
it's the power dynamic of
it.
The
power dynamic is so huge. And it's also that sense of entitlement. I've known nobody at Newhouse, but friends who have said, what am I supposed to do? Like these young women, these girls come in and they show their midriffs and they have really tight, like, where am I supposed to look? What am I supposed to think? And so I would go back to them and say, now that I'm teaching, I get what you mean, because these guys wear skinny jeans. Like, obviously it's an invitation. When am I supposed to look? And they're like, that's disgusting. Like, yeah, it's just as disgusting the other way around.
That's such a common thing in like porn titles. And I know it's just like role play, like it's not real, but I was like, why are people, well, like there's so much of it out there that to me, I was like, that tells me enough people have like wanted that. That's like, oh my God.
I understand it, I guess, from it's forbidden.
Maybe that's it.
But I've never really been into forbidden.
That probably explains also the whole like step relationship thing that's like common too. Like people joke about.
That's not even forbidden. That's just incestuous. I mean, that's legally forbidden.
Like, yeah.
Like you said, it's performative. It's somewhere to act out fantasies. And if that's all that it is.
Yeah.
But that doesn't appeal to me. Mm-hmm. I have definitely watched porn, but I'm less interested in it now.
I've never really been, yeah.
I don't want to watch something that in the real world
no,
would be highly problematic or traumatizing.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to think about that. Like,
Yeah.
ew.
But I think it is. It's the taboo / power imbalance, power dynamic that people like. I guess that's a good question. I did interview somebody recently, the woman who started Make Love Not Porn, a
I like
real
that
world
title.
site where they have real people doing real things.
Good. We need more real people because that's representative.
She talked about how she gets letters from men who will say, I cried when I saw the tenderness. Before I interviewed her, I watched
Yeah.
basically a snippet,
Yes.
30 seconds of
Yeah.
and it was just a couple on a bed. She was in a tank top and PJs.
That's real. That's
We're
real.
just starting to, I don't know how it ends. I don't know what.
Foreplay.
Oh, good thing you brought that up. So I'm on a mission.
Yes.
There's no such thing. Because foreplay means that the main event is P and V.
Yeah.
Let's just call all of it sex, right?
Yeah.
Foreplay, usually it's associated with how are we going to make a woman orgasm?
Yeah.
And then we're going to do the real thing. And I'll get off my soapbox. But
It's okay. I love it.
the tenderness between them.
Mm-hmm.
Just two people starting to turn each other on. They're just kissing.
Yeah.
Lying on their sides on a bed kissing. I was genuinely moved.
That's romantic. That's beautiful, actually.
So we can end on that.
Yeah.
I think we're at a good stopping point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was my former student, Alex Petro, who calls herself an open book, proudly carries on the legacy of her Russian mother, and is clearly the kind of friend you want to keep you honest about relationships. Our conversation was recorded at the Keenan Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Creativity in Syracuse, New York. Women Like Sex is a flipped script production. It is executive produced and edited by me, Natasha Stojanovic. Website design and artwork is by Ted Nunez. Edesio Martinez is associate producer. For more episodes and swag, or to subscribe to the podcast or Patreon, please visit womenlikesex.com, the Women Like Sex YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is Women Like Sex. Pass it on.